I'm Don Widmer, and I create images within sheets of handmade paper using plant pulp as a painting medium, a technique called pulp painting. In this video, I'll be showing you how I create one of my pieces. As a paper maker, I'm fascinated by the ability of pulp to represent both living creatures and inanimate objects, which is why I choose to paint birds as well as architectural imagery. My birds are a natural fit for the organic nature of the plant fiber. The colored pulp creates a hazy, blurred edge, almost feather-like. Painting buildings and factories with pulp is more of a challenge, but I love the dichotomy of depicting harsh, human-constructed architectural forms within the soft, organic medium of paper derived from natural plant matter. Even though pulp painting developed in the 1960s and 70s, it's still a new art form to many people, so I find myself explaining the medium to most people I meet when I do an art fair. It's a paper-making process. The image is actually formed inside the sheet of paper while it's being made. Unlike a drawing or a print or a painting, there's nothing on top of the paper. Even among other pulp painters, my style of creating imagery is relatively unique. I strive to get as much detail as possible. This is my home paper studio. I begin with plants such as hosta or daylily, kozo, cotton, abaca, or flax. I like to experiment with local plants that my friends give me. I can also use recycled fabrics made from plants like a pair of denim jeans or a piece of linen. The plants are cooked in a solution of soda ash and water to break down the cellulose and remove the acidity. If I'm working with fabric, I cut it into small pieces. Then I add this material into my Hollander beater. The rotary beater on this machine doesn't chop like a blender. Instead, it beats the plant fibers over and over. Keeping the fibers long makes a strong sheet of paper. Sometimes I do want short fibers, for example, if I want the paper to be translucent, or if I want to spray the pulp through a nozzle. Depending on the toughness of the fiber and the consistency I aim for, I run the beater anywhere from 5 minutes to 3 hours. I add the pulp fiber to a vat of water. The base sheet is formed with a mold and decal, which is like a screen held in a frame, allowing the pulp to form on top while the water drips out. The sheet is transferred to a work surface, a process called couching. I always couch onto pellon, which is fabric interfacing. Underneath the pellon is a wet piece of felt. Papermaking is a very wet process, and you will probably get both yourself and your floor wet no matter how hard you try not to. Now I have my base sheet, which becomes my canvas. I can immediately start painting with colored pulp on top of this freshly formed sheet. My pulp paint is cotton or flax, which has been beaten for a very long time so that the fibers become so short they will go through a spray bottle without clogging. I color the white cotton with pigment. A chemical called retention aid binds the pigment into the fiber. Everything happening in the papermaking process involves hydrogen bonding. It's all chemistry, and it happens naturally when water and cellulose molecules come together. The more I understand the chemistry, the more I can control my results. After I color the pulp, I pour it into a spray bottle, and I'm ready to begin. My secret to getting detailed imagery is by using many layers of stencils. Most of my time is spent ahead of time designing and cutting my stencils. It could take me 1 or several weeks to create these stencils. The stencils are cut with an alpha blade out of thin sheets of polyester or mylar. This crow is one of my simplest images, which is just 2 stencils, but my larger work could have 20 or more stenciled layers. I spray the pulp through the stencil, and all the tiny particles of colored pulp bond instantly with the fibers in the base sheet. When I lift off the stencil, I have my image, and the hydrogen bonding has already taken place. My second stencil lets me put on some white highlights. I don't need to leave any time in between layers. I need to complete my image while everything is wet, but I can continue to work on a single piece for an entire day or even the next day if I cover it with wet felt overnight. I can create several sheets at a time and stack them on top of each other with layers of wet pelons in between. When I'm done working for the day, I press out the water in between 2 boards, which I clamp down. This can also be done with a hydraulic press. Pressing the sheets will help them dry faster and also creates a stronger sheet by eliminating the pockets of air. However, as I mentioned earlier, the hydrogen bonding has already taken place. I dry sheets in a restraint drying system. Each sheet is placed between cotton blotters and then sandwiched between layers of cardboard. I use straps to create pressure and make sure that the sheets dry completely flat. A fan blows through the system through the holes in the cardboard, wicking away the moisture from the wet sheets. This drying process takes between 2 to 5 days. After that, the pulp painting is complete and ready to display. I never add anything else to the dry sheet except for my signature. You just saw my unique process of creating an image within a sheet of handmade paper, a technique called pulp painting. I'm always creating new works which I exhibit at art fairs throughout the Midwest or online. To see my latest work, I'd love for you to stay in touch by following me on Facebook or Instagram or visiting my Etsy store.